Welcome at Pizza and More. This time we make something which has lots of things to do with Italy, but nothing with pizza. Yeah, I'm Jürgen and we make this time together the so-called Milanese bread. And I show you how easy and simple it is to make it at home by yourself. Who knows the Milanese bread knows that the outside of the bread is crispy and nice and golden, and the inside is very fluffy and absolutely delicious. You may know in Italy it's absolutely common that at each food or for each meal there is some bread on the table. And this bread Milanese or this Milanese bread is perfectly for being reached on the table for food. We will use for this recipe a small portion of Lievito Madre, so the Italian sourdough. If you don't have a Lievito Madre, it doesn't matter, leave it simply away and add instead 1 gram of yeast more. But if you want to breed your own Lievito Madre, this is absolutely no issue, it's not complicated. In the video description, beside the whole recipe of the Milanese bread, of course, I will also have the link to the video where I show you how to breed your own Lievito Madre. And now I show you the ingredients for our bread. We need for our Milanese bread 350 grams of flour. I have here Typo 0 flour. You also could use all-purpose flour. Then I have here 180 grams of very cold water. I have 2 grams of dry yeast. Then I have 8 grams of fine sea salt. Then 20 grams of my Lievito Madre. I have here 3 grams of malt. If you don't have malt, you also could use honey. And I have here 15 grams of olive oil. Now I will put all the ingredients into the bowl of the mixer. Only the salt stays out. Then I mix everything for around 5 minutes. After 5 minutes I add the salt. And then I continue kneading until I'm able to make the window test. Now after around 20 minutes of kneading time, I think the dough is ready. Please don't be afraid and don't wonder, the dough is very dry. But this is exactly how it should be. I took already a piece of dough out and now I try to stretch it. I think it's always a bit difficult to make this window test because it's only difficult if the dough is that dry like this dough is. I think we have a hydration of 50-52% or so. But nevertheless, you can see it works. Well, here broke the dough already, but here it works. I'm able to stretch the dough. You need to be a bit careful and then it's possible, which means the gluten structure is built and I can take the dough out of the machine. If the dough is out, you can see it's really very dry. Then we shape here a dough ball. And then it's the easiest if we directly take a dough ball box or something else or a bowl. We cover the dough and we let the dough now rest at room temperature for around 30 minutes. Now it's time to shape the bread. Therefore we press the dough a bit. Like a rectangle. And then we have always to have a look that the dough does not stick to the counter. Therefore we can use a spatula to release the dough. We can also use some flour, of course. And then we use a roller pin to stretch the dough. It needs to be here at one side around 30 centimeters, at the other side around 5 centimeters and around 50 to 60 centimeter in the length. And then we have to roll it up. We start at the side where it's wider and then we roll it and then we can lift it always a bit and stretch more, and then we roll it. And then here we can take the longer side and stretch it always, and then we continue rolling. And then if we have it complete, then we press it a bit together so that it's not that long anymore. Then we take a dough ball box. We add here a bit of olive oil. The reason is then it's easier to remove the bread for baking. Then we take our dough, put it into the box. Then we close the lid, and now we let it rest in the fridge for 12 to 24 hours. The dough was now for 18 hours in the fridge. Round about 30 minutes ago, I took it out of the fridge and put it into room temperature. In the meanwhile, I also preheated my normal kitchen oven to 220 degrees upper and lower heat, so both-sided heat for to 220 degrees Celsius. It's important in the oven that we produce steam. I'm lucky I have an oven which is able to produce steam by itself. If you don't have such an oven, then please put at the total bottom a baking tray, an empty baking tray, where you can then pour some water in, which produces steam. Or what I did in the past when I had a different oven, I put a cake baking form, and there I put some lava stones into it, and then I poured water into this baking form, and then it also produced steam. I preheated the oven with a upside down baking tray at the lowest level, because on this upside down baking tray I will bake the bread. Or you could also use a pizza stone or even a pizza steel. Then, when the bread is on the counter and after the 30 minutes, really immediately before we put it into the oven, we take a sharp knife and then we cut into the dough, and it could be easily 2 to 3 centimeters deep. As you can see, I use here some baking paper parchment, which I use because it's then simply easier to lounge the bread. For lounging the bread, I take here such a peel, and then really I only go with the peel under, and then I put the bread into the oven. And then, arrived at the oven, I lounge the bread at the lowest level, as I said. We bake the bread now for around 20 minutes. After these 20 minutes, we open the oven door, we remove the steam. We also remove the pot or the baking tray where we produced steam with. So we remove the steam source. Then we close the oven again, and then we lower the temperature to 190 degrees Celsius. And then we continue baking for, I would say, around 20 to 30 minutes until the bread is nice and golden. And there comes our bread Milanese, or our Milanese bread, out of the oven. And now we have to let it cool down. The bread now needs to cool down, and after cooling down we can cut the bread into slices. I'm really looking forward for this because I will have this bread for breakfast. If you like my video, it would be fantastic if you would subscribe my channel, and then we see us also in the next video. Ciao.